Damn right. You've got to do something. Or else next time it happens, I'm billing you personally.
Yeesh.
There are times... Hello there. Wonderful. There isn't much of this stuff left outside. If you have any questions about... Of course, certainly. We have several items in our collection that we rotate in and out over time, but they all originate from the same place, Earth. We have everything from toys to antique technology. Most of our collection was donated by fellow Earth. Thanks for visiting.
Word of advice, steer clear. The doctor here, she really seems to have a problem with tourists for some reason.
That's a nice outfit you got. I could probably offer you a good price for it. Well, hello there, and welcome to my little shop. Are you visiting New Homestead for the first time? Oh, nice. You know, it's always such a pleasure to meet people from other worlds. Or just space. I don't judge. I'm Jay. I'm happy to help you find what you're looking to buy or take a look at whatever you want to sell. Trades of all kinds are welcome here. Or if you have any questions for me about the shop, the merchandise, or even just New Homestead in general, I'm happy to help you. Glad you asked. I'm looking for all sorts of things. Anything, really. Clothing, weapons, jewelry, even stuff they consider junk. You name it. We don't get a lot of off-world stock, so I offer to buy things from travelers. Anything they're willing to part with. Between you and me, people around here talk a lot about tradition and whatnot, but even they get curious about what other worlds have to offer. I love them. Most of us in New Homestead appreciate what tourism does for our economic livelihood, so we go out of our way to make guests feel welcome. Some are indifferent about it, while a few others, I won't name names, are downright resentful of all the tourists and would prefer to be left alone. But that being said, I believe our generally friendly demeanor is a large part of what drives people to keep coming back. We used to, but not anymore. Believe it or not, the New Homestead Tourism Board decided a while back to do away with souvenirs. We don't really have the resources or facilities to make them here ourselves, and it was decided that anything less than that would seem exploitive of our people and inauthentic. Only thing we have are these souvenir slates about the history of New Homestead. Tell you what, I've got an extra one here that another guest left behind a while back. You can have it. Sure thing. I'm also interested in buying if you have anything for sale. Come back anytime.
Did you see those wind turbines out there?
Wow.
I am capable of carrying additional supplies, if necessary.
If you're looking to trade, I'm happy to help.
This is a boring assignment, but let's keep it that way.
I still can't believe people actually live like this.
Brownouts last week. Boy,
I know.
glad they have
I'm just
junks
glad the
here.
auxiliary power picked up. Remember
We
that
used to
time a
get
few
more
years
tourists
back where
than we
everyone
do
had to
these
huddle
days.
together for warmth?
You get used to the method processes after a while.
The tourists hated
It's
that.
been a while since I last visited.
Joyce says she's on
Nice
it.
to see this
Something
place
about
still has the same
turbines
charm.
freezing up again.
Warm food,
Cold
Joyce
drinks?
is great at what
What
she
else
does.
could you want?
Sure, she'll handle it.
So then I...
How about those brownouts last week?
Welcome. I'm Anya. Is this your first time with us at the Brown Horse Tavern?
Remember that time a few years back where everyone had to huddle together for warmth?
Oh, the tourists hated that.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. You're in for a real treat. We've got an assortment of food and drinks, some of which follow homemade recipes that have been passed down over hundreds of years. So, what can I do for you? You mean the Brown Horse? Well, it's only the longest continuous running restaurant since humans started settling outside of Earth. There's a lot of history within these walls, and some damn fine food and drink, if I say so myself. This place has been in my family for generations. My however many, great-grandmother opened it when the first colony started on Titan. Back then, it was a simple mess hall that she chose to put a little extra love and flavor into. And now, it's the pride of New Homestead. Oh, hardly. The locals pretty much stay away from chunks, so whenever they don't feel like cooking themselves and want a fresh meal, they come to me. Only the tourists eat that junk. Oh, but don't tell that to my husband. He manages the chunks. I love him, but he's a bit of a fanatic about it. Let me show you what we have. Take care. Thanks for stopping by.
Good day, Captain. Am I currently in possession of it? Travel safely.
Lots of history here, if you're into that sort of thing.
don't mind the tourists. They help the local economy.
If you need medical attention, see Dr. Lakota. But a word of warning, she really doesn't care for tourists.
Joyce is great.
I could really go for some of Anna's cooking over at the Brown Horse.
New Homestead's quite the learning experience. Why, hello there! I'm Bill Starsap of Starsap Tours. Let me tell you, this place is full of history and interesting facts. For instance, did you know that New Homestead was one of the first colonies established outside of Earth? It's been populated in some capacity for over 200 years. Yes, sirree, and so what? Excellent! You won't regret it! My tours are one of a kind. Now there's just the matter of price. Well, 100. Did I? Sorry, but I'm not trying to be a... Yeah, I hope so. I know what you're... Sorry, but that... Hey...
I could really go for some of
Hey
Anna's
there!
cooking
Hope
over
you
at the
brought a
Brown Horse.
help. For instance. Yes, sirree. And so what do you say? Excellent! You won't regret it. Now there's just the well. I seem to attract... I assure you it wasn't maybe... I'm glad you understand. I'm still willing. Tell you what, I like you. This one's on the house, but... So let's get this... All right, so... This is New Homestead's main concourse. This underground area didn't exist when the original outpost, Titan Astro Base, was finished in 2130. Follow me. We'll come back here by the... end of the tour and talk about the museum collection. But first, let's go see where people live. Now remember, these people aren't actors. They actually live here, so try to be respectful of that. While the original inhabitants of the Titan Astro Base lived in pods like you saw up above, they transitioned down here when this section of the base was finished in 2144. Space is extremely limited, so you'll notice some overflow here, but more residences also exist on lower levels, which are inaccessible to tours. I'll stop at each of our destinations if you want to look around, or if you have any questions for me.
You'll never catch me.
But first, let's go see where people live. Now remember, these people aren't actors. They transitioned down here. This
If you take one of the stupid tours, make sure to follow the rules. They're for your own safety. Do you need medical assistance? I don't. They make a mockery of New Homestead culture. And on top of it, they're reckless. It's like I said before, I feel like I'm treating them more often than our own people. Actually, maybe there is. I have an idea that may be best suited for someone relatively unknown, instead of myself. I've got a mountain of work and a reputation to maintain. So I bought a realistic monster costume. The plan was to wear it, scare tourists away, and start a rumor about terrible creatures living on Titan. I figure that once word gets around, tourism will take enough of a dive to give me some relief. That's the spirit. To be honest, I'm not sure it'll work either, but I feel like there's no harm in trying. Here's the costume. I think this will work best on the surface, so just find a group and run up to them, acting like a... With any luck, they'll run screaming and book the next flight out of here. What can I do for you? Even though we don't have shiny new medical facilities, I imagine it's easier than wherever you're from. We have fewer people here, and we're very responsible when it comes to our personal health and welfare. So there's not much I can't handle. For anything else, we can get access to off-world specialists. Contrary to popular belief, we're not primitive. I bought it from a private seller. They said they got it from someone who wore it in a secondary school as their sports team mascot. I guess it was supposed to be a tardigrade or something. Anyway, the person I bought it from modified it a bit so they could use it in an independent movie they were making. But I guess that went nowhere, so they had to sell it. Lucky me, I suppose. It's a harsh world, but as long as you're inside or wear a suit when going out, you'll be fine here. There's no breathable air on the surface, and you'll quickly freeze to death outside without protective gear, but otherwise the hazards are minimal. New Homestead was an early colony research base and has stood the test of time. It's safe, and it's proof that people can live pretty much. Don't worry so much. Stay safe. Don't be afraid to do whatever. I'll treat you if you need it. But please, try to be more careful around. Try to be careful out there.
It's always so cold here. I can't wait to go away on my learning vacation when I grow up.
All these tourists are able to come and go as they please. I wish I had that kind of money. Oh, you don't really want to talk to me. I'm just a nobody from the crates. Besides, I'm not really good at talking to tourists about New Homestead. If you're really interested in our history, talk to Maurice. He's a lot better at that than I am. You do? I mean, sure. I don't know what I can tell you, but if you want to talk, I don't have anything else I need to do right now. Okay, well, no. Not the studies specifically. Like, I get good grades when I'm able to apply myself. But I'm poor. I just don't have the kind of money to be a full-time student and support. I keep having to take odd jobs just to put food on my plate. And when I do, my grades suffer. What? Really? I don't know what to say. Well, I'm trying to finish up my undergrad schooling, actually. I want to be a physicist like my grandmother. Then, who knows what. But I also do some odd jobs here or there. Sometimes I help Jay out at his shop, and he gives me stuff in return. Sometimes I help Anya clean up at the Brown Horse when she's short-staffed. That sort of thing. The crates are what we call the living quarters for the poor people, like me. They're made from old shipping containers. We have to make do with the space we have here. They're comfortable enough, I guess. And no one on Titan is well off to begin with, but you can tell that people look down on us, especially some of the tourists. It's not as bad as you'd think. I like talking to off-worlders, especially people my age. It gives me ideas for what I want to do when I'm done with school. Because, honestly, I'm not sure I want to stay here. It'll always be my home, but as soon as I can afford to, I'd love to explore my options. Later. all these tourists are able to come and go as they please. Oh, you... Besides... You do? Okay, well, no. But... I keep having to... Really? I thought it was the only way. But maybe you're right. I guess I can put my studies on hold, at least until I get enough. Maybe part of the reason I feel I've been stuck in a rut is because I put... The crates are what we call... They're comfortable enough, I guess. Well, I'm trying, but I also do... Sometimes It's not as bad, because on... Thanks for stopping by to talk.
Off-worlders always ask how I can live here. I wonder how they can live anywhere else.
Hi there. Always nice to see a new face.
Have any questions so far? Sadly, it's difficult to get additional construction done inside these underground caverns. So for now, additional populations are housed in these stacks of old shipping crates. As you might expect, this is where some of the less wealthy can afford to live. It's not glamorous, but they are functional and cozy. The original Titan astrobase had more habitation pods on the surface connected to some of the old structures you may have seen in the back. As the colony grew, the base was expanded underground, and those hab units were recycled into materials used down here. I'm not sure the exact count, but New Homestead is a fairly small colony. What you see is what you get for the most part, except for some other people who live in the private lower levels. Some, particularly security, and yours truly, even commute from other worlds. Alrighty, we'll be taking the residential elevator to the farms area. Let's leave these good people alone for now and go check out the farms. Follow me up the elevator.
Hello.
I could really go for some of Anya's cooking over at the Brown Horse.
Lots of history here, if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah, I don't mind the tourists. They help the local economy.
You get used to the methane processing smell after a while.
New Homestead's farms are the beating heart of the colony. Without them, the original outpost would have shriveled and died. These pods are sealed and climate controlled, a perfect environment for growing the hydroponic vegetation needed for survival in the early days of the colony. Any questions about the farms? Oh, they are indeed. Colonists still cultivate plant-based food for their... It's less vital to their survival these days, as they also import supplemental food from other colonies. However, most citizens here take pride in a new homestead grown. These days, it's a mix of what you find elsewhere in the galaxy, but in the olden days, it was all brought over from Earth. It was a lot of hardy root vegetables like potatoes, carrots, beets, and such, supplemented with corn, peas, green beans, soy, etc., which didn't always grow as well. Good question. It's largely the same, because this was the colony that pioneered the techniques you see elsewhere. But you'll notice that the farms here are smaller. Things here are a little more old-fashioned compared to some of the large factory farms you'll find elsewhere in the settled systems. Have a good one. Any questions about the farm? Onward it is! But for now, it's just a short wait. So, the old biolabs are just on the other side of this building, believe it or not. We'll step on through the hallway there. They're not in use anymore, but the colony has faithfully recreated them as a historical exhibit, true to the original purpose of the Titan Astrobase. Sadly, they're undergoing some light renovation. Otherwise, there'd be interactive activities for kids to learn about how they used to search for microbial life here. Pardon the dust, but I can still answer some questions about the old Titan Astrobase biolabs. Funny you should ask! Sadly, none. See, NASA funded the Titan Astrobase project because conditions seemed ripe for primordial. They tested many different sites, performed deep core ice drilling, and more, yet Well, NASA defunded the xenobiology program in 2132, but a scientist by the name of Catherine Neely proposed research into advanced colony building on inhospitable worlds. So, by 2135, work began on what would ultimately set us all up to create habitats anywhere humans dared to explore. These very labs housed the computer systems used in that research. That and general... Oh, I'm sorry. I completely forgot to mention that. That's what this place was. When NASA divested its interest in the astrobase and turned it over to the people back in 2185, they renamed it New. You got it. On to our next stop. Next, we'll be heading outside, so make sure to check those seals on your suit because it's bit chilly out there. We're going out into the frozen wastes of Titan to see what powers this planet. Watch your step outside, by the way. The ice can be slippery if you're not careful. The goal is to keep people out of Dr. Lakota's infirmary. Anyway, where were we? Oh, yes. Powering New Homestead. As you might imagine, generating energy was a real challenge back in the day because the technology was much more crude then. But crude or not, it was that technology that sustained the old astrobase. And it might surprise you to learn that the same technology is still working today. The interesting thing about this old colony is that it's mostly powered by clean, renewable energy. You'll see one of the methods used on the horizon up ahead. That's right, New Homestead's famous wind farms. This spot was chosen for the colony in part because of its constant winds. These turbines have been integral to the colony's function since its establishment as a cheap, mostly reliable source of electricity. So, let's talk about... Mostly. I'm sure you've noticed the occasional brownouts. I guess these old machines have a habit of freezing. There's some methane on reserve for critical life support systems, but everything else here is otherwise powered by the unit. You're looking at a piece of history. Sure, wind power is used throughout the galaxy, but these people were able to make do with it for hundreds of years. It's impressive that was all they had back then, and still make it work to this day. You're right. Most surface wind on Titan isn't too terribly strong, but here, the altitude, like many worlds with atmosphere, the higher you go, you're the boss. Let's go. Moving right along, we're going to learn about Titan. back in the 20th century on Earth, they used to fight wars over natural resources like this and petroleum. They had this whole moon here basically made of hydrocarbons in their own backyard. They just couldn't get to it. Incredible how far we've come. New Homestead is home to one of the oldest and largest methane processing plants in the settled system. Every year, UC engineers go through a painstaking, month-long maintenance process. That's how this place has remained operational as long as it has. I'm not going to take you too close to the machinery, liability and all, but I can still answer questions. Questions? Fire away! Exports mostly, since this world is so methane-rich and has the infrastructure for it, a lot of the UC's methane comes from Titan. Of course, new homesteaders use it themselves for every... Oh, no one's ever asked me that before. Something to do with... Ah, it's not as if they shut down for a month. It's not shut down at all, actually. See, this place is built with redundant systems, so they can shut it down piece by piece and suffer only a reduction in throughput. During that time, the UC gets more of its resources from other places, allowing New Homestead to maintain what it needs. Okie dokie, artichokey. There will be time for more later anyway. So, this next stop is a bit of an interesting one. I only recently made it part of the tour. Fun fact, it's also the only natural landmark on the tour. What we're about to see is a glacial spire we affectionately call Emir's Horn. This coolness used to be named after a character in a popular fantasy novel, but it was changed a couple hundred years ago to avoid any potential litigation.
Looks like we got another leak in Sector 3.
Again? That's the second time this month.
I know. I'll send someone to patch it up again. We do what we gotta do until we get the approval to replace the whole unit.
Well, the leaks haven't been too bad, and it's held together this long, I suppose. We'll make do.
Thief!
Where were we? Oh, yes. Powering New Homestead. As you might imagine, generating energy. Real challenge. Anyway, where were we? Oh, yes. Powering New Homestead. As you might imagine, generating energy was a real challenge back in the day because the technology... But crude or not, it was that technology that sustained the old asteroid. The technology is still working today. The interesting thing about this old colony is that it's mostly powered by clean, renewable energy. You'll see one of the methods used. On the horizon up ahead. That's right! New Homestead's famous wind farms! This spot was chosen for the colony in part because of its constant winds. These turbines have been integral to the colony's function since its establishment as a cheap, mostly reliable source of electricity. So, let's talk about... You're the boss! Moving right along, we're going to learn about Titan's great natural resources. Dangerous. Just like my last ex-wife's pet. She had this gorgeous, I don't know what you'd call it, creature. The guy that sold it to her couldn't tell her what it was or where it was from. I don't think it was even a legal sell, to be honest. The thing was very easy on the eyes. Feathers, all the colors of the rainbow. Nasty bite, though. Wound up in the hospital and almost lost my hand. Still not enough for her to get rid of the dang thing. Anyway, there's a reason she's my ex-wife. But enough about me. We were talking about methane and other resources, right? Hey, can you believe it? Back in the 20th century on Earth, they used to fight wars over natural resources like this and petroleum. Is home to one of the oldest and largest methane processing plants in the settled systems. Every year, UC engineers go through a painstaking, month-long maintenance process. That's how this place has remained operational as long as it has. I'm not going to take you too close to the machinery, liability and all, but I can still answer questions. Questions? Okie dokie, Artichoke. So, this next stop is a bit of an interesting one. I only recently made it part of the tour.
Together this long, I suppose. We'll make do.
Sure would be nice to get off-world sometime.
Got a message. Looks like we got another leak in Sector 3.
Again? That's the second time this month.
I know. I'll send someone to go patch it up again. Off-worlders always ask how I can live here. I wonder how they can live anywhere else.
So here it is, Emir's I've heard this particular formation was caused by an ancient volcano. Something about steam and wind, then worn down over time. According to ancient Norse mythology, Ymir was the first Jotun, a frost giant. In the legend, they were both male and female and gave birth to... Ymir even predated the Norse gods, who, as it turns out, killed Ymir to fashion the earth and all of... It's a fascinating story. Just be careful! So here it is. Excellent. On to the... So, we're gonna head back inside through the methane processing plant. Try not to touch anything on your way. We want to make sure to respect Dr. Lakota's wishes to be safer around here. Well, that brings me to another point. You'll notice the people around here have last names related to where their families originated from on Earth, as a way to remember the past. The museum curator, Maurice Leon, has more information about that if you're interested. You can find him inside the main concourse. Loves talking about it. You'll find most of the locals here are very friendly to tourists like yourself. Tourism is a major draw to this colony these days, and I respect that. Most of them are happy to talk at length about what they do here. Their rugged lifestyle is a point of pride for a lot of these folks.
We used to get more tourists than we do these days.
This area we're walking through is the nerve center of the plant, where technicians keep an eye on the operation. Since methane production is such an important part of the colony's livelihood, it's important that the techs notice any issues and react to them quickly. Anyway, we're headed into the ice mines. It's a natural spring where water bubbles up from deep below, but due to the cold, it keeps freezing as it reaches the surface.
Another tourists come to learn about the ice mines, huh? It's dangerous in the ice mines. I'd much rather answer your questions than have you going off to explore on your own. I'm surprised I still get this question. It's slippery, it's sharp, it can break, it can cave in. Those are just the obvious examples. Titan is also full of methane, which can sometimes be trapped under the ice. As you know, methane can explode under the right conditions. It can also asphyxiate you if you breathe in too much of it. So you can relate. It's good to talk with someone who understands the challenges of the job. Not everyone does. If I might ask, what do you mind? Oh. That's... But, visions, you say? That sounds more like... Anyway, I'm sure we could swap mining stories all day, but, for drinking water. And we use some of it to produce this area. We recycle a lot of what we use, but we still need a nice, steady supply of fresh water. Lucky for us. For one, New Homestead is not a wealthy, but we also pride ourselves on doing things the old ways. It's part of the... we don't mind. We work hard here, and it's very... Bye.
What else can I tell you about the ice? Not all. Some water is created as a byproduct of methane processing, but that's usually saved in the emergency reserves. Good question. I believe it has something to do with not wanting to contaminate the water with methane and other chemicals. The ice helps prevent impurities in the water. At least this... I wouldn't recommend it. First, it's an active work site. Second, it still needs... But don't worry, we'll stop some... Sounds good! We have just one more stop before we're done with the tour, and it just happens to be my favorite. folks of Earth, even before antique machines like automobiles were possible, horses could be found everywhere. You might have seen them in old movies or read about them somewhere. If not, I highly recommend looking into them sometime. They're beautiful animals. The tavern's original owner was infatuated with them, from what I understand, and named the place in their honor. The moniker, Brown Horse Tavern, is also a throwback to names of similar Earth restaurants hundreds of years before it was established.
Hi there. Always nice seeing a new face.
I know I shouldn't have, but I just wanted to see how they'd react.
But aren't they going to think we're even more old-fashioned than they already believe?
That's a good point. They already gawk at us like we're some sort of ancient curiosity.
Oh, I'm just trying to have a little fun. But you're probably right.
That delicious smell is making me hungry. Easy. All the other ones fell to ruin when we abandoned Earth. There were technically older ones on Mars, but those have long since shuttered or been replaced. Ooh, that's a tough one. I honestly love everything Anya serves here. I'd be doing her a disservice to recommend one dish over another. You want the real answer? Order one of everything. Anya Seattle is the current owner of the Brown Horse. It's been in the Seattle family for generations. But Anya will be able to tell you more herself. Feel free to ask her. It doesn't feel right coming from me when she's standing right over there. Okay then. All right, we're headed to the last stop. Right back where we began. Feel free to check out the museum exhibit in the main concourse here. These displays are full of rare Earth trinkets salvaged from before humanity left, and Maurice is happy to talk about the collection. The museum's curator, Maurice, will be happy to talk to you if you want to know more. Well, that's that! I hope you enjoyed Starcept. You're welcome, and thank you for coming along. Remember, take care!
To lay eyes on the Earth. Hello there. Enjoy the rest of your stay.